internally first. A lot of schools try to go raise their prices, raise their tuition without making sure that everything is congruent with it, right? And you've got to realize, like, within your school, everything counts. So it's, if you take a target market that you want and you take a price point you want to be at, you've got to make sure that everything's congruent, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to be at what people are going to perceive to be at the upper end of the market price-wise, you can't have fingerprints all over the front door. You can't have the school look shabby on the way in. You can't have the instructors dressing however they want. I mean, it's got to be, walk in, everybody's in the same uniform, the instructor has a haircut, they don't smell, the counter is clean and neat, the school is clean and neat. Now, you know, at one level you could go like something like this boardroom, which is, you know, you make the place look very high end. And in this metro market, there are places where I would want that, right? I mean, if I was down like where Don Barnes is, I'd want to make sure my school fits into being off Rodeo Drive and Wilshire and all of that. But mostly it's a matter of good first impression and being congruent with the market, right? You know, there were studies done. One of the studies we looked at in my MBA was the difference between like a household income of $20,000 a year and a household income of $100,000 a year, looking at medical clinics. And at the lower end, you know, having hand-created nice little artwork on the wall and so forth, they thought that was nice and it was homey. And at the other end, they thought it was rinky-dink and cheap, right? Well, you don't want to appeal to the market that's not what you're trying to attract, right? So you've got to make sure that you walk through and make sure that the staff look the part, that you look the part, that the instructors. I mean, if I'm appealing to, you know, which we are, families with 100,000 plus income, and they're mostly driving BMWs and Mercedes, and I've got an old clunker Toyota parked right in front of the school, and I'm going to make sure that it's not parked there, right? And if the instructor is driving an old cheap clunker Toyota, I'll make sure he packs it behind the school next to the dumpster, not right in front of the school, because I want everything to be congruent with what I want, right? I mean, and it's everything from, you know, if that's the market you want, be wearing a Submariner or something like that. So you don't want to overstretch, but you do want to make sure that everything you're doing is congruent with the market you're looking for, congruent with the price and perception that you're giving, right? If an example I saw recently, I'm telling parents this is going to help create a higher level of education for their kids, it's going to help them be more focused, more disciplined, one thing or another, and my head instructor can barely string together a sentence, you know, articulately. See, that doesn't work, right? If what I've got to have is the parent comes in with their 7-year-old and I want him to be off to Harvard and this is going to be the way to do it, the head instructor better, like, the parent better be saying, well, what I want is this 7-year-old to be just like that guy, right? And so it's so important that all those things be congruent. Does that make sense? And so you really have to focus internally on the school first and make sure that instead of hiring good athletes, you're hiring good people. Make sure that you have instructors who care about the students, not instructors who care about watching themselves in the mirror do their kicks and so forth, right? And no amount of the instructor being egocentric and internally focused on themselves helps them be a good instructor, right? I mean, the role in the school is to see the students thrive, not to have adulation. So you really have to look first at fixing the school internally and having all those pieces together. And at the same time, you want to be at the highest end of the price spectrum, be bringing in the people who are going to be willing to pay that and have all that be congruent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on when, you know, talking about teachers in terms of their participation during a class? Should they be participating with them, or should they be simply watching it?
Well, I think mostly they should be instructing, not training, right? Now, obviously, there's different levels. If I've got a brown belt class and we're teaching them submissions and so forth, I can be out there rolling around with them and all that stuff, as long as I'm not ignoring everybody else. On the other hand, if I have white belts, right, or if I have, you know, gold, you know, green belts, I'm making sure they're doing everything right. I'm making sure they're getting paid attention to, nurtured, and supported. And, you know, I'd much rather have a good teacher than a good athlete as an employee, right? And so many times as martial artists, we forget that there's a big distinction, right? Sometimes the ones who can't kick vertically can teach other people how to do it really well, and a lot of times the ones who can do it don't. We talked about the NFL being a big spectator sport. How many NFL players end up becoming fabulous coaches? Well, not a lot, right? How many fabulous gymnastics coaches were fabulous gold medal Olympians? Not many, right? There's a difference between being an athlete and being a teacher. There's a difference between being an athlete and being a coach. In Denver it was John Elway. He's not coaching an NFL team right now. It's probably not his skill set. And somebody at that level may not even know what it takes or what it took for them to be there, other than the mental tenacity and the practice, because somebody else was tuning and tweaking them. They had a coach. So don't confuse somebody's athletic talents with their ability to teach, right? Now, that having been said, it is important that mom sitting on the side is pointing at the instructor saying, I want my 7-year-old to be just like them, right? So if I'm teaching an adult market, I don't want to have a bunch of like dumpy, overweight people out there teaching me how to get in shape and lose weight. I don't want to have an instructor out there who looks like they couldn't put their left foot in front of their right foot teaching the kids, because I want the kids to want to be like them, right? But that having been said, it's the interpersonal skills, and it's the ability to convey everything in an articulate way, and it's the ability to chunk it properly, and it's the ability to pace class that really is much more important than any athletic skill.